So I'm Sandra Parker from Just a Tonic Coaching, and this is the part of my job that I love the most. So this is where I get to interview one of my fabulous clients to talk about their experience in Just a Tonic and to celebrate with them in terms of the results that they've had. So thank you so much, and I want to introduce David. David, lovely to have you with us.
Hi,
Welcome.
Sandra. Thank you. Thanks for the welcome.
Oh, you're so welcome. So you, David, you've literally just finished the Just a
Yeah,
Tonic 11-week program. So I want you just to cast your mind back from before you started. Could you share a bit about how much you were drinking and why you decided you wanted to take action?
yeah, certainly, Sandra. So, to go back in my history, I probably started to, drinking heavily from when I was around the age of 30. I was working away from home, having moved my job, and I was in a hotel. So I kind of bored in the evenings and ended up talking to the barman at the hotel and drinking every night. And then I'd go home at the weekend, and because it was a weekend, you'd be socializing and you'd be drinking. So I started drinking every day from that age. So 30 years later, my drinking changed from that in terms of my drinking became much heavier. I was now drinking a bottle of wine every night at least, and then often that was followed by a number of gin and tonics. So I was drinking over 100 units a week. Um, and I knew that wasn't a good place. There was a number of things where it was impacting my life. One, it was impacting me health-wise, because I played a lot of sport, and so therefore it was having an impact on my sport. It was having an impact on my work life, because I was waking up in the morning and not being as fit for work as I should be. And more importantly, it was affecting my relationship with my wife and my children, because obviously when you're living with someone that, as my wife would describe me, alcohol dependent, or a functioning alcoholic, um, it has an impact on those relationships. So all in all, I knew for some time that the drinking was having a negative impact on me. Um, you go through the stages where you kind of go to bed and you think, right, tomorrow will be a different day. I'll get up in the morning and I won't have a drink that following day. And then that following day comes on and you still feel like that first thing in the morning, but then as the day wears on, that feeling goes away, because that feeling that you want to have that alcoholic drink becomes a stronger urge within you. And then you come to the evening, and which is when I used to drink. I never used to drink during the day. I always used to drink in the evening. That bottle of wine would be opened, and that pattern would repeat itself forever and a day. So uh, I read something in a newspaper about your organisation, and it just got me thinking that if I'm really serious about doing something with my drinking, perhaps doing it on my own is not going to work, because it hasn't worked. And doing the same thing over and over again, it's just not having the impact that I really wanted it to have. So I gave it some thought and I discussed it with my wife, Jane. And that's when I then reached out to you, Sandra.
Thank you for sharing that. And was there like, so you mentioned that it had an effect in a number of areas, but also that you were high functioning. Was there a moment, was there something that happened that you just thought that's it? Or was it a kind of slow burn where you just felt you'd had enough?
I think it was a slow burn, but I think I'd spent several years thinking I need to do something about this. So it wasn't having a massive impact on my life, and actually my relationship with my wife and my children were okay. So it wasn't having a massive impact. There were moments where there would be a flare up, for example, with Jane. You're not able to deal with um, disagreements as well as you should be able to.
Yep.
So, and then that would create a resentment, and that would just become a kind of vicious circle, because then you get a response from your partner, which is not the response that you're looking for, which would then mean that you'd end up drinking more, which would then mean that she would respond even more so in a certain way. So that was the vicious circle that was beginning to have a bigger impact than it had, say, 5 years ago. So it was a gradual thing, to be honest. But there was always this nagging thing in my head that said, that while I feel I'm getting away with it, I knew I wasn't. It's one of those things where the thought of trying to then do something about it was 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 bigger than just staying with where you were, even though you knew where you were was not a healthy place to be on several fronts.
Yeah.
So the light bulb moment was when I kind of read the article and thought, okay, and Jane had said to me, you need help with this. But the thought of going to Alcohol Anonymous or something where you sit there and say, actually, my name isn't David Rose, it's John Smith, because we're all anonymous,
Yeah.
but we're not, didn't really feed me with kind of much pleasure, to be honest. So hence why I reached out to you, Sandra, to explore this way of dealing with the problem that I.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. I know certainly for me, the thought of AA for me was, it felt too extreme, and it felt
Yeah,
like I would only go there. It felt like you only went there if things were absolutely in dire straits. And there was so many aspects of that that I found I didn't like the idea of. And I
yeah,
know a lot of people feel similarly. So you, we had a couple of conversations, and I remember at the beginning, so like me, David, you're quite an analytical person.
yeah.
And I remember at the beginning you questioning whether you would be able to have a day where you didn't drink. So, what made you take the leap of faith? How did it feel in the beginning?
Yeah, so, well, as you know, at the beginning, I was very apprehensive about the whole program and questioned whether it really would be able to support me, and therefore to make that investment in myself. Um, and oh, I've forgotten my train of thought there. But oh, I haven't really lost my train of thought. Sorry about this.
That's okay. So, we're talking about, in the beginning, we had a couple of conversations,
Yeah,
and you were like, well, I don't think I can go a day without
yeah.
drinking.
So I didn't think I could go a day without alcohol, and I do remember Jane saying to me, she's a nurse, that your liver needs 24 hours without um, alcohol to recover. And being a typical person that's dependent upon something, I found a sneaky way to get around that. So I had some drinks one evening till about 8 o'clock, and then I stopped. And then I went 24 hours without a drink. And at 8 o'clock the following night, I opened up a bottle of wine, and she said, "Well, what do you think you're doing? You haven't gone a day without alcohol." And I said, "No, you told me 24 hours. My liver doesn't understand whether it's day or night." So, so that's the kind of sneaky approach that you kind of adopt. But having had a drink every night and having gone through that process, as I described earlier, that I'm going to give this my best intentions today, not to have a drink of alcohol, and then always falling back into having an alcohol. The thought of not having a day of having a day without alcohol, I just didn't think something it was something I was going to be able to achieve because I was very much dependent upon it. And I also felt that I enjoyed that glass of red wine, and I also felt that it gave me that illusion that it was relaxing me. The other thing that also I felt as well was that I wouldn't be able to go to sleep without alcohol, so therefore I would end up justifying having a drink because then it enabled me to be able to go to sleep.
Yeah.
So I had a number of preconceived ideas around alcohol and the positive impact that I thought it was having on me, in terms of relaxing and being able to get to drink and being able to have a good time and everything else. So therefore I justified my drinking.
So, do you mind sharing before you started, roughly how much were you drinking on an average night?
Oh, over 15 units a night. So it's a bottle of wine and gin and tonics, not measured to a measure. So it should
Right.
be a treble gin and tonic. So yeah, I was easily having 15 units a day, which is more than what I should be drinking in a week, which is
Yeah, I
maybe
understand.
14 units. So, and it didn't actually become any more, I didn't kind of fluctuate from that. So I wasn't drinking less than that, and I wasn't drinking more than that at certain occasions. It kind of was very much that's what I used to drink every single day.
Yeah. And with you being high functioning, because I remember those initial conversations, and I think this is where it's interesting, right? Like a lot of people from the outside, your life looks fine. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, no, and my work. I can work sort of flexi time. So I was, if I wanted to start at 10 o'clock, that's not an issue for me. So in my way, in my own world, I thought I was still, well, I was still doing the job. And as a consultant, people were still employing me and extending my contract. So I must have been doing a good job.
Yeah,
But there's a question whether, if you're working at 80% and doing a bit that, and that output is still a good job, that's not as good as it could be if you're doing 100%.
yeah.
Um,
But you were getting away with it because you're high functioning
yeah, yeah,
and you were still playing sport.
yeah. And I remember, um, I mean, I used to smoke in my days, and I remember um, going for a lung test, and I'd been smoking for about 20 years, and my lung test was very strong. They said, "You've got a good lung capacity for someone your age." And I said, "I don't know how that is, but considering I've been smoking 20 cigarettes a day for 20 years." And they said, "Well, just imagine what your lungs could have been like." So you justify it because actually you're still doing okay.
Yeah,
But that comment kind of landed in terms of actually it could have been so much better if I hadn't smoked.
yeah, yeah. You're not fulfilling your potential. Or
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
understand. So from the outside, things look okay, but like your relationship, your like in your like your health and your sounds like your awareness that this.
Yeah, so health-wise, you kind of get away with it to a certain point. But I think also you're fully aware of the implications that alcohol has on your body, even though you push it to one side, in terms of dementia, Parkinson's, cancer. And as you get older as well, I think that plays a bigger part on how you think and how you feel about certain things because you know that you're coming into a final chapter in your life at the age of
Yeah,
60. If you've got another 20 years, you're doing okay.
yeah,
And life has no guarantees, and people justify, well, yeah, but people die at the age of 50 and they've never had a drop of alcohol, never smoked a cigarette, whatever it is. But that's the risk. You're increasing your risks
yeah.
by consuming that level of alcohol. And
And I guess living with a nurse, you're you were very aware
I'll get
of
reminded on a regular basis. As she would say, if you were one of my patients, my heart would sink when you came through that door because I knew what the conversation and how it would pan out.
right, right, understand.
People don't take people don't take responsibility.
So you decided to take responsibility, right? And we
Yeah,
started working together. So
yeah.
when we first started, did you think this was going to work for you?
I had a slightly open mind. I was probably wearing more on the side of I hope this works, um, but I'm not certain if it will. But
Right.
I've invested in myself, so I have a duty to myself and to my partner, Jane, my wife Jane, to give it my all.
Yeah.
And that process started in August.
And you spoke to Annette beforehand, who
Uh,
Annette had done this program before.
yeah, so I just
Was
wanted
that
to
helpful?
yeah, I just wanted some reassurance that, from someone else that had gone through the program, that it had worked as well.
Yeah.
Um, so recommendations are always good. Speaking to someone. So I spoke to Annette and so that was a useful conversation and that kind of gave me the leap of faith, I suppose, to go for
Yeah. Fantastic. So then we go back to August. So you started off
it.
and you
Mhm.
were reducing how much you were drinking quite
Yeah,
a bit.
yeah. So I started off so there were several things. One, I was always going to bed later than Jane, so that would give me the time to have additional alcohol.
Yeah.
I made a promise to myself to start going to bed at the same time as Jane. And that had, a number of benefits because obviously we were going to sleep together. I wasn't disturbing her in a kind of drunken way,
Yeah.
and not disturbing her sleep. And people need sleep to be able to function properly as well. So I decided that I would cut out the gin and tonics.
Right.
So I would still consume a whole bottle of wine, but I would make that whole bottle of wine last the whole evening, and I would just drink instead of glugging it down. I would just take little sips and make it last, and that worked. Um, I knew it's not where I wanted to be, but it was my way of dealing with it. And I was, hearing on the group calls and through the WhatsApp group that some people had, almost stopped from day one. And I think Annette was someone that had stopped from day
Yeah.
one. But then I also heard that Savon, who's also part of your team, was drinking almost up until the day where the challenge started, where you
Yes.
to then stop drinking alcohol. So, and everyone has to find, the one thing that comes out loud and clear, everyone has to find what works for them.
Yeah.
And there's no judgment on that from anyone. You have to find your way of dealing with it. So that was my way of dealing with it, was to do a gradual reduction. So I gradually reduced to a bottle of wine, and I think it was about 3 weeks. I then reduced that bottle of wine to half a bottle of wine. But within that time, I kicked in my first alcohol-free day.
What was that like? Can you remember?
Well, I remember that the first time, because the other thing I was doing was I was then working more to occupy my time, because one of the things that was a trigger for me was boredom in the evening. So I ended up doing a lot more work, working till 9 o'clock, and therefore not starting to drink the half bottle of wine from 9 o'clock. So that's the way of making it last till I then went to bed at 10:30. So that was my kind of analytical, methodical way of dealing with stuff. And then I remember Annette saying you need to have um, a day without. And that was Yvonne first who said you need to have that day. And I'm going, yes, Yvonne, yeah, you're absolutely right. Um, and there was one moment where I got to 9:30 and I thought, oh, shall I make this the day? I don't have alcohol, but I went down and I still had that half bottle. And then that day kicked in a couple of days later, and I'd had another conversation with Annette who said, it's really important you have a day where you don't have alcohol. And then that time arrived again where it was about 9:30, and I thought, do you know what, David, let's just go for it. Just don't have it. So I did. And then I then started kicking in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And then I was going Monday to Friday, but then still drinking at the weekend, but still only the half bottle at the weekend. So what that did was it gave me the confidence. And I think that's a big word for me, because if you get confidence from what you're doing and you get some small wins, it gives you that confidence to go on to the bigger wins, or to the next smaller wins, which gets you to that point where you then completely stop. But it gave me the confidence that actually I could go to sleep without alcohol, because that was always a big worry. I could spend an evening without alcohol. So those were my two big triggers. There were other triggers as well that I had, but those were the two big ones. They were the daily ones.
Yeah.
Um,
And
it gave me the confidence that I could do this. So you can then expand from there, can't you?
yeah, and I can remember speaking to you each week, and like the percentage that you were drinking was going down. The day then after you had your first day alcohol free, and you were building it up. So
I worked out that I had reduced my income, my alcohol intake by about 80%.
amazing.
And I posted it on the WhatsApp group because I thought, because for me, that was about wherever you are, if you start looking at it in terms of where you were and wherever you are on that journey, if you start to reduce it, if you actually work that out, that it was kind of, wow, I've reduced my alcohol intake by 80%. Who would have thought that?
Yeah, that's huge, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's a massive shift.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the WhatsApp group. Like when you think about the different elements of the program, like a lot of people feel nervous about being in a group, sharing it, how they're doing with other people. We try to make sure that people feel supported and that it's like-minded people. I mean, you're somebody that I've seen really come into their own when you were connecting with the group. Like, tell us a bit about what that experience was like for you.
Yeah. So the WhatsApp group, so in the early days, I'd read these lovely posts, which, people were either very good at writing stuff on WhatsApp groups, or they were coming towards the end of that program, so they were full of beans and kind of they were used to this process. It was more of a slow burn for me, and I wasn't always posting, so I was getting told off for not posting because we need to know where you are and everything else. And I was thinking, well, I don't really have an awful lot to say compared to what everyone else is saying. So I was a bit more reserved in my posts in WhatsApp, but I kind of listen to you've got to just at least put where you are in terms of what's your brag for the day, no matter how small it is, what's your plans for today and everything else. So I just started in a kind of small way, putting out WhatsApp groups, and then obviously towards the end, I was more fluent, shall we say, in how I was posting and what I was posting. But what was lovely about the WhatsApp group was that you could read other people's stories and the journeys that they were going on. You could celebrate their successes as well with them. There was no, I think I said the word judgment. There was no judgment in the WhatsApp group, and everyone was supported. And I would say that the WhatsApp group was, there were key things that were going on in this whole program, key ingredients, as I would say. But this was a key ingredient because you knew you weren't on your own. You knew you were in a group of like-minded people in terms of you had a common theme, you had a common goal, and that was to stop drinking alcohol. So that's what brought you together. How you got to that point where you stopped drinking alcohol was all slightly different, but we were all on each other's side. We were all there to support each other,
Yeah,
to share, but also to share and remind ourselves of our journey as well, and our small successes, as I said, our brags, what
yeah.
they were. So yeah, so that it was the WhatsApp group was a positive group to be in.
And what about the group calls, the one-to-one, the modules?
Yeah, so if we're going to go through the whole process, if we look at all the different ingredients, you got the modules as you say, and the modules. Again, I would do a bit of catch up on the modules, so I wasn't necessarily listening to them every day, and then I think, oh God, I haven't listened to all the modules this week. I better listen to them, and then I listen to them all. I was journaling every day, interestingly, because I got into the habit of that, but I wasn't necessarily listening to the modules. The modules, to begin with, you were kind of thinking, I'm not certain what this is doing for me because it's telling me a lot of stuff and a lot of facts about alcohol, which I kind of know, but then I'm thinking, well, there's a wider group, and does everyone know? But actually, does it hurt you to listen to these? But it had this. It wasn't until you got through the weeks you realised it was having an unconscious impact on you. So I always talk about the unconscious and subconscious and the conscious, and so I'd kind of moved from consciously aware that I was drinking too much alcohol. Um, and therefore I needed to do something about it. And what the modules did was that they were putting you into a place where you were rewiring your brain, but in a kind of unconscious way.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm not saying that journey's complete, but it certainly was having an impact. But the further you got into the program with the modules, the bigger the impact it was having. So that was the modules. I mentioned the journaling because obviously there was homework to do from the modules as well. And I remember having to write the reasons why I wanted to stop alcohol, and I've mentioned some of those reasons. But I also remember writing a vision as well about what my future would look like. And I remember describing the going out for a meal with friends. And I remember looking at my wife. My wife was looking at me with loving eyes and total respect because there I was totally engaged in the conversation and not being drunk and slurring my words, etc. So yeah, just given a very brief description of that. And how proud I, because she was of me. So that was kind of my vision. So there was all the modules, and then there was the note taking and the journaling and the homework to do. Then there was the one-to-ones. So I had one-to-ones with Annette and Savon and yourself, and doing things like Beat. But also in Lisa, the wellbeing
yeah,
coach, who I would highly recommend. Very good. I went into one session with her with knowing exactly what I wanted to get out of the session. But the other sessions, I went in and I decided to go in there completely blind and not have anything prepared. But somehow we still managed to get onto a subject. So she obviously has a great deal of skill to kind of get you to that point where you're talking about stuff that's going to help you.
yeah,
And then there was the group sessions where you get to, which was lovely because then you get to see people's faces, don't you? So
yeah,
although you're not in the same WhatsApp group, you get to see people, and there's nothing better than hearing someone describe what they're going through, and the dialogue that goes on between you and the other individual. And then people sharing their own experiences that add support to that individual as well. So if you put all of those ingredients together, it all works really cohesively for me to
Yeah.
get to where I am today, which is alcohol free and still
And,
alcohol free.
and so how many days have you been alcohol free for, David?
I've been alcohol free now for 37, 44, 40, 48 days.
Amazing. When you think back
Um,
to August when we had those first
yeah.
conversations, and did you think you would get to where you're at now?
No, no. Well, no, like I said, I kind of took the leap of faith and I was hoping it would work. But no, you can't visualize it at that point in time because you're just used to where you are, and that's drinking
Yeah.
alcohol every day. And having gone through that process of trying to stop, you don't think anything's going to help you. You feel like almost this is it.
Yeah. That's who I am.
So yeah, exactly. So no, I never believed it. And without a desire to want to go and have that drink at this point in time.
That's,
So it's not just the fact that I've gone the 48 days without alcohol. It's that I don't see myself needing to go and have a drink.
yeah.
And we spoke as well about the reward. And obviously, I've rewarded myself for this achievement. But in true style of how I operate, it's only part complete for me. So yes, it is a massive achievement to do the 30 days without alcohol and now going on to 48 days. But I'm also very conscious that if I don't keep this going, I could be back into where I was very quickly, and therefore this will not have delivered the long-term ambition that I have. So I'm very much aware that's where I need to make this into a long-term ambition. So I'm now working on my reward in 6 months' time
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
of what that looks like. Because actually, to go 6 months,
Yeah.
that's an even bigger achievement.
Yeah. 100%.
Because
Yeah.
also when you come to the end of the 30 days, several people have said, okay, oh, I'm coming to the end of the 30 days, I can reward myself with a drink. And then you go, oh my God, I'm talking about rewarding with a drink. What are you playing at, David? And that takes you back to when for example, I gave the example earlier in the course where when I was doing some gardening and I'd done 4 hours of gardening, and I thought, oh, I'll go and have a beer because I deserve a beer.
Yeah.
Now I have
Yeah.
alcohol-free beer.
It's yeah, it's just that wiring, right? We notice it comes back with
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
conditioning about alcohol. Tell us what's the best things for you about not needing to drink.
I've got control, and it's not controlling me. I decide, I choose. Um, the fact that oh well, I've lost weight.
It's always a bonus.
2 years. I've lost in 2 years. Well, in since I started this program, I've lost 5 kilograms.
Wow.
So I've lost weight. So that's
Yeah.
a physical benefit.
Yeah.
I can now get into shirts, which I couldn't get into for many a year. So that wardrobe's come back into fashion. Well, not come back into fashion, come back into it's out of fashion now. But
You're bringing it into fashion.
so physically, so if we talk about physically, weight loss, definitely. Sport. I mean, I play a lot of snooker. I'm so much more focused in my snooker play, and the decisions I make on the snooker table are made with a very much clear head. And
That's good.
my win ratio has gone up
Brilliant.
quite dramatically. As you know, I play golf, and my golf is improving as well through this. But that may be also because I'm fairly new into the game, so I'm on a natural learning curve anyway. Um, Physically, I'm much more aware of things. I remember things, so I can now remember every conversation I have, including today,
Excellent.
which means I remember absolutely everything there.
Yeah. And
So that's talented.
what about your relationship with your daughter? What's that like?
So my daughter, through splits and everything else, was in a decent place, but it's improved a lot also since I've given up. And she's told me she's very proud of what I've actually done.
That's brilliant. I
That's
love that.
and we now communicate twice a week, whereas before it'd be once every fortnight. So
Oh wow, it's a
we've
change a lot.
become a lot closer.
That's fantastic.
So that's good. So and obviously with Jane that's improved dramatically, and she recognised that the vicious circle that I talked about earlier about how she would react to me, she's recognised that how she was reacting to me wasn't helping me either, but that was a reaction to the situation as well.
Yeah,
So because that's been taken out of the equation, our relationship has actually gone from strength to strength just in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
that's amazing. That's
So
fantastic. Huge part
um,
of your motivation, right? Your relationship with your wife.
yeah, absolutely. Don't want to have a third wife at the age of 6. That's,
That's a different program.
I know there
So
was a little competition about how many surnames you could have in the WhatsApp group, but as a bloke, I only keep the one. But as women, depending, some don't
carry
change
them
their
all around.
surnames. But
So
anyway, that's a personal choice.
if somebody if somebody was listening to this and they were thinking, like, I can identify with what David's saying, like I'm drinking a similar amount, I'm also high functioning, and I'm worried this isn't going to work. Like, what would you say to them?
I would say take that leap of faith is the first thing, because until you can take that leap of faith, but I'd also say to them that it's something that you've really got to want to do. So get into that conscious mind that this is something that you really want to do, and then take this leap of faith with this program, and then follow the process. Don't beat yourself up when you get into the process. Once you get into the program, don't beat yourself up about where you are at that point in time. Follow the process, celebrate the small wins, gain the confidence that you can do it, and go for it. That would buy. And I suppose the other word I would use is embrace it. Embrace the program, but embrace the people that you're with as well, and make those connections. And some people you'll connect more with than others, but that's life. That
Yeah,
happens. So there
brilliant.
was several people that I embraced more with than others, but that didn't mean to say the others you don't have full respect and full support for them. And likewise, they have full respect and full support for you as well. So and I think that's the other thing. But the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it, and that's life, isn't it? The more you put into it, that's
Yeah, I
it.
love that.
So,
Are you glad that you took that leap of faith?
yeah, of course I am. Absolutely, 100%. And I put out that I was very grateful to the A team as such. Um, So, because I wouldn't. There's no doubt I wouldn't be alcohol free today if I hadn't have taken this program. I can say that with absolute 100% certainty.
Thank you so much for sharing. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think we've probably covered most everything apart from that. I'll reiterate that. With you and the team and everyone else, I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you.
Because I wouldn't be alcohol free and where I am today. Stronger relationships, health wise improved, work wise improved. There's so much to win.
Yeah,
So that's the other thing. There's so much to gain. So that's why I was just saying, get on and do
brilliant. And we'll come back and interview again once you've done your 6 months and you can share your reward.
it.
Thank you so
You
much.
could.
That was fabulous. Thank you for
That's all right.
sharing.
Sam.